Welcome back to Sisterhood Reads. As you can see, I got started a little late and didn't want to sit out in that sun. So we'll go ahead and get started on chapter 5. I do have to give fair warning that this chapter is a little bit graphic. Reason for everything. Gabby recently had met an older guy from a nearby neighborhood. She secretly grew a crush on him. He went by the name of Deuce. Deuce thought Gabby was cute, but only liked her as far as friends go. Deuce hung out frequently with his cousin George. George was infatuated with Gabby. George would ask Gabby out on dates or ask if she'd like to hang out alone sometime. Gabby always nicely said no. There was something about George that rubbed Gabby the wrong way. As Gabby sat on the bench in the jungles that morning, Deuce sent Gabby a text message. He asked if she wanted to chill with him and his cousins later that evening. Gabby wanted to see Deuce, so she texted him back asking, "Sure, where's this going to be?" Deuce said, "Up the street at my cousin's pad." "George offered to pick you up. Is that cool?" Gabby thought for a second. She didn't want to be alone with George. Still, Gabby texted him back, "Yeah, I guess that's fine." Later that evening, George picked her up. They showed up to one of his cousin's houses. Gabby was the only female there. She was laughing and joking with all of the guys. George poured her a couple of drinks throughout the night. Gabby eventually began to feel a little funny. She thought maybe it was because she didn't eat enough. A little later that night, Deuce stood up. He said, "All right, I gotta bounce. I gotta handle some shit." The guys said bye. As Deuce began to walk away, Gabby thought to herself, "I should ask him to drop me off." She failed to ask him. A few minutes after Deuce left, Gabby tried to get up. She found it difficult as she was feeling weak. She looked over to George. "I need to go to the bathroom, but I could barely feel my legs," Gabby said with concern in her voice. George helped her up. He wrapped his arms around her waist and guided her to the bathroom. George asked, "Do you want me to go in there with you?" Gabby replied, "No, no, I'm good, thanks." She closed the door and locked it. Moving slowly, Gabby pushed herself along the wall to the toilet. She felt like she was losing all control of her body. She managed to go pee. With the very little strength she had, she held onto the wall with both hands. Gabby opened the door and looked at George with a worried look on her face. Gabby said, "I still can't feel my legs. Can you please just take me home?" George agreed. In the car, Gabby slurred, "Fuck, I don't have my keys." George replied, "I'll just get you a motel room." Gabby was feeling weaker by the second. It felt like extra effort to speak. She hadn't the strength in her neck to hold her head up. Slurring and whispering, Gabby managed to say, "No, thanks, but just drop me off at my friend's pad." Again, George insisted, "I don't mind. I don't want anyone to see you like this." Gabby slurred, "No, just take me to Pacoima and Glen Oaks." Within seconds of her request, Gabby blacked out. When she came to, she felt queasy. She reached for the door handle, but she was too weak to move her arm. She desperately felt the need to throw up. She purged a little bit of liquid in between the small gap of the door and the seat. George came back to the car from the motel lobby. Gabby sloppily told him, "I don't feel good. I threw up." Gabby still couldn't hold her head up. George said, "I got you a room for the night. I'll help you to get in there and then I'll go home." He started the car and drove into a parking space. He put the car in park. He turned to look at Gabby. Her head was down. Her eyes were closed. George smirked. He then got out of the car and walked around to the passenger side. He reached in to grab Gabby. Gabby had no control of her head, legs, or her arms. George wrapped his arms around Gabby's waist, walking her into the motel room. Once inside, he laid her on the bed. There, George took off her sandals. He unbuckled her pants and slid them down her legs, along with her underwear. She had a menstrual pad on them because Gabby was on her moon cycle. Gabby, barely able to move, tried to reach toward her pants. She looked into George's eyes as she quietly mumbled, "Please, George, don't. Just go home." He removed her blouse and bra. He began kissing Gabby on her neck. Gabby tried her hardest to fight and push him off. Unfortunately for Gabby, she was so weak, it didn't matter how hard she tried to push. She was in no condition to fight the big guy on top of her. He proceeded to take advantage of her. When he penetrated inside of her, Gabby began to cry. There was nothing else she could do. George looked in her eyes as he raped her. He wiped the tears off her left cheek. George whispered, "Don't cry, baby, I'm right here. I'll take care of you." Gabby continued to cry. She felt helpless and disgusted. Gabby went in and out of consciousness as George raped her. Although George had drugged Gabby, he pretended that Gabby was his girlfriend. In his mind, he pretended that Gabby was consensual to the sex. He told himself that she would enjoy it just as much as he did. It was about 1:20 a.m. when he finished. George got himself dressed, and then he left Gabby alone in the room. He got in his car, put the key in the ignition, and started the car. George sat there with a blank stare. About a minute later, he began talking aloud. "That shit didn't work. She wasn't supposed to know." George hit the steering wheel with his right hand as he continued, "Fuck! Fuck! Fuck! What if she remembers? What if she calls the fucking cops? She was supposed to be my lady. She'll never want my fat ass now. Fuck! Fuck! All right. Okay. If she calls the cops or tells anyone, I'm gonna deny. It never happened. That crazy little bitch is making it all up." George stroked his right hand over his face, from his eyes, over his cheek, and down his chin. He sniffed a deep breath of air through his nose. He then said, "All right, fuck it then," as he drove off. Gabby just laid there, still unable to move. She must have thought to herself and begged herself over 100 times to get up. She would say things like, "Come on, Gabby, get up. Move. Just get up, Gabby." A few hours went by. After attempting over and again to move, finally Gabby could feel her hands tingling. She took that as a good sign. At least now she felt something. She continued at her attempts to get up. Eventually, she felt her body regaining some strength. Finally, around 4:10 in the morning, Gabby had enough strength to move. She still, however, felt frail. She slowly crawled to the edge of the bed. She encouraged herself and thought, "You can get up. It's okay. You're okay. Gabby, get up now." Gabby placed her feet on the ground, attempting to stand. She landed face down on the ground. "All right, that's okay. I just gotta get to the bathroom now," Gabby thought. Still lacking strength in her legs, Gabby crawled over to the bathroom, pulling herself with her arms. She reached towards the sink and tried to pull herself up. It took a few attempts, but finally she stood on her own 2 feet. Turning the water on, she splashed her face. She looked up to see her reflection. Gabby broke into tears. She stared back at herself, questioning, "What the fuck just happened? How could you let him do that to you? You didn't even defend yourself. You just fucking lay there. What the fuck's wrong with you?" She shook her head. She then said, "Stop it, Gabby. It wasn't your fault. You were helpless in there. You didn't deserve what went down." He must have slipped something in your drink. Man, you've chugged liquor and been gone, but never like that. You know what? At least you're still alive. Still slouched over holding the sink, Gabby continued sobbing. She slowly walked over to the shower, trying to maintain balance. She turned the hot and cold knobs. Feeling too nauseous to continue standing, she kneeled in the shower. Gabby cried uncontrollably as the water hit her. She reached over for the soap. She unwrapped the bar of soap and began scrubbing herself as hard as she could. As dirty as she felt, no amount of soap could cleanse the feeling of internal disgust from her at that moment. After 15 minutes in the shower, Gabby turned the water off and grabbed a towel. She dried up and got her clothes back on. She desperately wanted to get out of that room. She walked down the driveway of the motel and realized she was 2 cities away from home. Gabby didn't want anyone at the apartments to see her like this. Holding her sandals in her left hand, she walked 4 miles to Miranda and Miguel's house. She felt it was too early to knock, so she lay on the doorstep. Miranda got up and jumped in the shower. After she was dressed and ready for her day, she went to the kitchen to make breakfast. Gabby heard the noise of the pans. She got to her feet and tapped on the kitchen window. Miranda peeped out of the window to see who it was. She knew something wasn't right when she looked into Gabby's face. Miranda opened the door to let Gabby in. Miranda asked Gabby if she was okay. Gabby, still in shock, told Miranda what happened. Miranda hugged Gabby tight, trying to console her. Gabby said as she cried, "I feel so gross. I feel like a fucking sucia. Please, Miranda, keep this between us. I don't want anyone to see me differently." Miranda agreed. Fighting back her own tears, Miranda said, "Of course, Ma, that's your business to speak on. But for the record, you're not a sucia. You're a woman now. I know that's not how you wanted to become a woman, and that's not how any child or woman deserves to be treated. Despite this unfortunate situation, you're a firme person. You still have your beauty and your good heart. Don't let him take that too, mamas." Gabby said, "Thank you, mujer." Miranda nodded. She said, "Come in the kitchen. Let me make you some breakfast." Miranda pulled Gabby's arms and sat Gabby down at the kitchen table. The pans had been set out on the stove already. Miranda made some pancake mix with chocolate chips and walnuts. She then scrambled up some eggs. When the pans were warm, Miranda began cooking pancakes, bacon, and eggs. Miguel came out to compliment the smell. Miguel could tell that Gabby had been crying. He didn't want to ask any questions. Instead, he politely said, "Good morning, mija." Gabby avoided eye contact with Miguel. She smiled in his direction, saying, "Good morning, Miggy. Sorry." When breakfast was ready, Miranda served Gabby and Miguel first. She then served herself a plate and joined them at the table. Gabby said, "Damn, Miranda, I don't know what you did differently, but these are the best pancakes I've ever tasted." Miranda thanked Gabby, responding, "I used a little bit of cinnamon and a lot of love, mujer." Miguel added, "Can you believe that every morning my little sis gets up to cook? Bomb shit, too. Pozole, chorizo con huevos, huevos rancheros, tortillas hecho a mano. Man, whatever it might be, she hooks it up." Gabby laughed. She insisted, "Shoot, in that case, I'll be over here every morning." Miranda welcomed Gabby's invite. "Anytime, mamas. I learned from kicking abuelita. I try to hook up dinner every night, too." Miguel rubbed his stomach, saying, "Oh, man, don't even get me started. This chick can throw down in the kitchen." Gabby said, "That's what's up. Not to brag, but I can microwave a mean cup of noodles." Everyone laughed. After he finished eating, Miguel thanked his sister for breakfast. He walked over to her and kissed her on the forehead. Miggy then walked over to the sink to wash his plate. As he did so, he told Miranda what he had planned for his day. He wished the ladies a lovely day and headed out to start his shift. Miranda asked Gabby Do you have any plans for today, Ma? Gabby replied, Ugh, to dig a hole, crawl inside, and die? Miranda shook her head as she said, That's what I'm afraid of. You're spending the day with me today, like it or not. Listen, babe, what happened? It fucking sucks. That dude is a loser, a piece of shit who has massive issues. I know you don't want to hear this, but everything happens for a reason. You needed to experience this along with the confusion, emotions, and pain for some reason or another. Don't be a victim, Gabby. That's when he wins. Make a report if you need to, but forgive the situation for you and go forward in a good way as you heal, mamas. You've gotten through this kind of stuff before. You're a strong warrior. With tears in her eyes, Gabby shook her head, rolled her eyes upward, and replied, You're so right. I don't want to hear that shit. But I know you're right about everything. I don't understand it now. I know I don't wish this feeling on anybody, not even my worst enemy. Miranda nodded in agreement. Miranda asked Gabby, Do you believe in karma? In an angry tone of voice, Gabby replied, Fuck yeah, I do. Miranda said, Me too. I believe that fool will get his. It might not be what I feel or what you feel he deserves. It's not on either of us to say what he deserves. But there has to be a balance between good and bad. When you're doing bad things, I believe you bring bad to yourself. I do believe that he will suffer for this. Gabby shifted her jaw back and forth as she glared above Miranda's head for a moment. She then looked into Miranda's eyes. Very sternly, Gabby said, I don't know, but fuck him. Yep, but you still have to forgive the situation, yourself, and if possible, him when you're ready. The sooner the better for you, responded Miranda. Gabby removed the dishes from the table. She walked over to the sink to wash them. Miranda went to the stove to grab the pans, which she had used to cook breakfast. She took them over to the sink. Together they washed and dried the dishes. Miranda said, Okay, I had planned on sitting around weighing out weed sacks for a while. Scratch that though. How about we do something random? Like what? Gabby asked. Miranda responded, Well, we can go to Six Flags. Are you down? Gabby inhaled deeply. For a moment, she thought to herself, I don't want to be around any big crowds. Don't be a bitch. It'll be better to get your mind off of it than to sit around thinking nonstop about it. Gabby said out loud, Okay, yeah, I'm down. Miranda smiled, saying, Okay, cool. Miranda gestured with her index finger. Miranda said, Hold on. Let me just fix you up a little bit. Gabby gave Miranda a what the fuck kind of look. Just a little bit, begged Miranda. She walked to her room to grab a brush, some bobby pins, and a makeup bag. She sat Gabby down at the kitchen table. Gabby said, I don't know, Ma. Miranda replied, Just trust me. Miranda combed Gabby's hair, slightly pumped, and pinned it to both sides of her head. She then combed it into a loose bun and pinned the bun in place. She looked at Gabby and agreed with herself by nodding her head and saying, Mm-hmm. Next, Miranda grabbed the eyeshadow. She hooked Gabby up with eyeshadow, eyeliner, blush, and lip gloss. Next, Miranda curled Gabby's lashes. She took a step back and said, Perfecto. Got you looking like a hot mama. Gabby blushed. Miranda grabbed her keys and said, All right, we're good to go. They walked to the garage. The ladies hopped into Miranda's Impala. As Miranda warmed the car, she asked Gabby, Hip hop or oldies? Gabby replied, Oldies? Miranda put a CD in the deck that had a mix of some bomb-ass rolas. They cruised to the freeway and headed up to the amusement park. When they rolled up to the parking entrance, Miranda gave the worker her season pass. The worker scanned her pass and handed it back. After they grabbed a parking spot, they walked to one of the ticket booths. Although Miranda had season pass. She paid for Gabby's ticket with a $100 bill. After purchasing the ticket, they went through the main entrance. They glanced around as they walked past all the shops. They walked up to a big water fountain. As a tradition, they took a couple of pictures together with their flip phones. Passing the kids' rides, a few others, a few others, they made their way to the first big ride. No sooner than they got in line, a group of young guys showed interest in the two young ladies. One of the guys in the group asked Gabby, "Are you ladies from around here?" Gabby responded, "Yeah, sort of." The guy lifted his right eyebrow as if questioning Gabby's response. Gabby explained, "We live 15 minutes away off of the 210 freeway. But this area we're standing on right now is part of one of my ancestral villages." The guy nodded his head, saying, "Oh, okay. We drove in from Anaheim. I'm California native too." Miranda said, "Shouldn't you be at Disneyland then?" The guys laughed. Another guy said, "We wanted to get on real roller coasters." "Ah, I see. Well, if I lived in Anaheim, you know where you could find me all the time," Miranda replied excitedly. Gabby asked the first guy, "What nation are you from?" He responded, "I'm Kauai and Tongva." Gabby excitedly replied, "No way. It's awesome to run into a Tongva brother. I'm Tongva and Tataviam." The guy smiled and said, "I knew it. You're too beautiful not to be Tongva." Gabby smiled shyly. The first guy looked to Miranda, asking, "So, are you here all the time?" Miranda replied, "Well, not all the time. I try to come at least every 2 months." The guys said in sync, "Dang, lucky." One of the guys asked, "Does that mean you have a season pass?" Miranda nodded her head, answering, "Mm-hmm." The first guy put his hand out to Gabby and said, "Hi, I'm Robert, by the way." Gabby introduced herself. As she shook his hand, she said, "This is my friend Miranda." Robert shook Miranda's hand, saying, "Nice to meet you." He pointed to his two friends, saying, "This is Ernie and Marcos." The ladies and the guys waved to each other, saying, "Nice to meet you." Robert asked Gabby, "So, what city do you live in exactly?" Gabby responded, "I live in Pacoima." "Oh, right on. I got a cousin who bangs bacas." Miranda and Gabby laughed. Gabby asked, "Do you bang too?" Robert gave a sly smile and said, "Let's just say right here, right now, I don't." Gabby said, "It'd be better that you never do." Then she winked at him. He smiled. Finally, they reached the front of the ride. With excitement, Robert said, "All right, let's do this." The ladies got onto the back of the roller coaster. The guys sat in the cart in front of them. With their arms in the air, everyone was pretty much screaming, giggling, or doing both. After the ride, the ladies and the guys wished each other a good day. The guys went one way, and the ladies went the other. Miranda and Gabby rode almost every roller coaster in the theme park. They didn't eat all day since breakfast. Around 5 o'clock in the evening, Miranda said, "I'm freaking starving. You want to go eat?" Gabby made a face as she thought about it. Before she could answer, Miranda said, "It's on me. Let's go to Outback." Gabby nodded as she replied, "Okay, yeah. I haven't been there in a cool ass minute." The ladies walked out of the park and drove over to the restaurant. There was a waiting line when they got there. Miranda went in and made a reservation. When she came out, she said, "It's gonna take 30 minutes. You want to smoke a blunt before we eat?" Gabby pulled her head back. "Miranda, you don't smoke," Gabby said in confusion. Miranda smirked as she said, "Yeah, but you do. And I have a sack if you want to blaze." Gabby felt bad. Although she did want to smoke, Gabby said, "Nah, Mom, I'm good. Thank you, though. You're the fucking best." The ladies sat down on a bench outside the restaurant. They took that time to talk about goals and dreams. Gabby knew she would fall into being a massage therapist and an entertainer. Mostly, she wanted to write songs and sing. Miranda had her mind on becoming a doctor. She hadn't yet decided what kind of doctor she wanted to be. She mostly wanted to choose between an obstetrician and a cardiologist. The hostess called for Miranda. The ladies walked in to be seated. As they looked at the menu, Miranda said, "Ugh, I'm so hungry that everything looks bomb on this menu." Gabby agreed. When the waiter came to get their drink orders, Miranda first asked for coconut shrimp. The waiter asked, "And to drink?" The ladies both ordered water with lemon. Gabby asked, "Can we go ahead and put in our orders now?" "Yes, of course," the waiter answered. He then asked, "What will you have?" Gabby ordered chicken and ribs with broccoli. Miranda ordered a chicken salad and a bowl of soup. When the shrimp arrived, the ladies excitedly ate them all up. The waiter walked up to Gabby with the mixed drink in his hand. He said, "Miss, there's a gentleman who requested that I bring you this drink. I do have to ask for ID." Gabby replied, "Tell him I said thank you, but I don't drink." The waiter nodded and walked away. Miranda laughed, asking, "You don't drink, huh?" Gabby laughed too and said, "Come on, that's embarrassing, saying I'm underage." Miranda laughed, replying, "So what? You are underage. That's a bragging right." Within minutes, the man who ordered Gabby the drink walked up. He put his hand out as he said, "Hello, my name is Adam." As Gabby shook his hand, she introduced herself and Miranda. "Hello, Adam. I'm Gabby, and this is my friend Miranda." Adam shook Miranda's hand, saying pleasure. He turned to Gabby and asked, "Do you mind if I join you for a minute?" Gabby answered, "With all due respect, Adam, I came to have dinner with my friend here. It's her birthday, and I would like to give her my undivided attention." Adam apologized. "I'm sorry to have interrupted." He glanced over to Miranda and wished her a happy birthday. He looked back to Gabby, then said, "I have to say, you are a beautiful woman. Have a good night." Gabby smiled, thanking him. She wished him a good night as well. Miranda kept a straight face. She leaned in, teasing, "Man, you're on a roll today." Gabby said, "What do you mean?" Miranda gave Gabby a face as to say, "Really?" Then Miranda revisited the day, stating, "Okay, homeboy at Six Flags had pinche babas coming out of his boca. All of his friends were all eyes on you. I guess you didn't notice all the other motherfuckers that were staring and jocking on your ass over there all day today? And then this guy here looked hypnotized." Gabby rolled her eyes, saying, "Ugh, and I don't want anything to do with any guys right now." Miranda made a face of sympathy. She said, "I don't blame you, sis. I know in due time, you'll heal and give some lucky guy a chance to show you how wonderful love can be." The waiter brought their plates out, announcing each dish. He placed them in front of the girls, then said, "You ladies enjoy." They both smiled and thanked him. Throughout dinner, the ladies got back to talking about careers and schooling. Miranda had already applied to a couple of colleges of her choice. Gabby was planning on going to a trade school to become a massage therapist. Gabby figured that massage would be a more stable route versus music. The music would be recorded and performed in her free time. After dinner, Gabby sighed, holding her tummy, and said, "Oh, thank you so much for dinner, Ma. That food was bomb." Miranda winked at Gabby. "You're very welcome, Gabs. Thank you for spending the day with me, my love." Miranda responded. Gabby answered, "No, thank you. This little break from reality was most definitely what I needed." Miranda smiled. The waiter brought boxes for the girls to take their leftovers home. He placed the check in the center of the table. After Miranda paid, the ladies got up and headed for home. When Gabby got home, Dennis asked where she had been. Gabby said, "I spent the night with Miranda. Today we went to Six Flags." Dennis squinted his eyes in envy. Dennis said, "Oh, must be nice, Lucky." Gabby smiled. She said, "It was. Good night." Gabby tossed her leftovers in her brother's lap and went to her room. She locked the door behind her. She put her back to the door and took a deep breath. Gabby exhaled and walked over to the stereo. She turned the music on low enough that it wouldn't bother anyone, but loud enough that no one could hear her cry. Gabby slowly walked over to her bed, plopping face down. Gabby quietly sobbed with her face hidden in her pillow. As Gabby cried, she flashed back to when she was 4 years old. She was playing hide and seek with some of the other kids in the apartments. One of the girls' older brothers grabbed Gabby by the arm, saying, "You're on my team." Gabby's friend Melly knew that her 13-year-old brother, Greg, was up to no good. Melly was afraid of her brother. Still, she had Gabby by the other arm, crying out, "No, leave her alone, please, just let her play with us." Greg replied, "Calm down. We are going to play." Greg shoved his sister and sternly insisted, "Go hide." Greg excitedly pulled Gabby behind a building. He pulled up her shirt, revealing her tummy. Greg put his finger on Gabby's stomach. Gabby stood utterly stiff. Greg said, "We're going to make a map to figure out the best way to go and hide. So let's see. We're here." Greg moved his finger down and then to the right of Gabby's stomach, saying, "Home base is over here." Greg slowly moved his finger down into Gabby's pants as he touched her on what she knew as her peepee. He said, "And we want to be here." Greg began playing with Gabby's vagina. Gabby didn't know how to react. She looked like a deer caught in the headlights. When Greg finished playing his game, he told Gabby nicely, "You can't tell anybody about this, okay? It'll be our little secret. If you tell anybody about our secret, they're going to think you're a liar. And then they're going to hate you. You can't even tell your mom because she'll hate you the most. She won't ever love you or want to talk to you again." Gabby nodded her head. She was scared and confused. She didn't know at the time precisely what just happened to her. She felt like what just happened was not okay. Gabby was afraid her mom would find out and truly would hate her. Later that night, Melly angrily told her brother, "I'm telling Mom what you did, Greg." He pinned her against the wall by her neck. Greg said, "Mom won't believe you, but still, if you tell her, I'm going to cut your little tongue out of your mouth. Do you want that?" Melly's eyes grew wide. She quickly shook her head. Greg let go of Melly's throat and said, "Good girl. Plus, your friend liked it, the same way you like it, Mel." Melly fell to the floor. She sat against the wall and cried as she held her head between her knees. In the back of his mind, Greg was worried that Melly would tell their mom what he did to Gabby. Greg went to his mom and asked, "Mom, what would happen to a boy who touched a little girl in her private place?" Greg's mom showed concern in her face. She asked, "Why? Did you touch somebody?" Greg quickly shook his head, saying, "No, of course not. I was just wondering." Greg's mom said, "Don't lie to me. That question doesn't just come random. What happened?" Greg got scared and regretted asking the question. He realized his mother would keep grilling him. Greg said, "It's this girl, one of Mel's friends. I think her brother does it to her." Greg's mother asked, "What do you mean you think?" Greg said, "Well, I think I saw him touching her." Greg's mom placed her hand over her mouth. She asked Greg which friend he was referring to. Greg couldn't think fast enough. He said it was Gabby. Greg's mother then told Greg, "You did the right thing by telling me. Go get ready for bed." Greg's mom called the police station and told him that she suspected a neighbor was fondling his sister. Within an hour, the police were at Gabby's door. They pulled Gabby's mom, Tiffany, out and explained why they were there. Tiffany was concerned about both of her children. She opened the door and shouted for her son Dennis to come outside. The police questioned Dennis. When they finished, they thanked him for his honesty. Tiffany said, "Sit on the couch and wait for me." Dennis went back inside the house. Tiffany asked the police, "Okay, you questioned him, now what?" The policeman said, "We understand that there may not have been foul play, We still have to be sure. We want you to take her to the doctors and get her checked for any signs of penetration or abrasions. We'll be able to close the report out depending on what the doctor finds. Tiffany asked, Well, do I take her now to the emergency or tomorrow to her doctor? The policeman answered, I don't want her to be freaked out. Take her tomorrow to her doctor. Let the doctor know why, and she should know what to look for. Give the doctor our card and have him contact us. The officer pulled out a card and handed it to Tiffany. Tiffany's hand shook as she reached out to grab the card. She thanked the men, then turned to go inside. Tiffany went into the house and talked to Dennis. She believed her son wouldn't do such a thing. Tiffany also knew that kids were sometimes afraid to be honest. She didn't want to push the issue. Tiffany hugged her son and said, I know you're a good boy, Papa. It's your responsibility as a big brother to take care of your sister. Dennis replied, I know, Mama. I would never hurt her. Tiffany said, I know. Go ahead and go to bed. I'll see you in the morning. They kissed each other on the cheek and said goodnight. First thing in the morning, Tiffany called Gabby's doctor's office to set the appointment. Tiffany got Gabby ready and took her to the doctor's office. The doctor checked her thoroughly. When she finished, she asked Gabby a series of questions. The questions were involving rape and molestation. Gabby suddenly knew why she was there, but she couldn't figure out how it got to this point. Gabby was afraid to let her mom find out, so she told the doctor that no one had ever touched her in such a way. The doctor left Gabby alone in the room. She went out to speak to Tiffany. There are no signs of penetration. Her hymen is still normal. Tiffany was relieved. She handed the policeman's card to the doctor. She said, The officers asked me to give this to you. They need to hear this from you so they can close out the report. The doctor nodded her head as she took the card. The doctor replied, You got it. I'm glad she's okay. Gabby's in the room waiting for you. We'll see each other soon. Tiffany thanked the doctor as she shook her hand. Tiffany wanted to forget about this whole ordeal. She went to the room to get her daughter. Neither of them mentioned the situation. Without saying a word, Melly and her family moved out of the apartment in a matter of weeks. All through Gabby's childhood and teens, the images of Greg molesting her would play in her mind. Due to fear of rejection, Gabby didn't talk about the molestation. She was traumatized. Gabby often came across cycles of anger and depression within. More often than not, she felt abandoned or alone. When Gabby was 11, she finally revealed to Miranda what she had gone through. Miranda told Gabby that she was a resilient person for dealing with it so well. It helped Gabby a little bit to finally tell someone. Miranda kept Gabby's secret. This time around, after crying and reflecting on the past, Gabby sat in her bed, staring blankly at the wall for a few minutes. She didn't think or speak. She just stared at the wall. Suddenly, she reached over to her nightstand to grab a notebook. Gabby began to write. She wrote down everything that happened to her the night before as she recalled it. When she finished writing it all down, she began writing a song about it. Gabby wrote the song as a third party. First, the song contained a lot of anger. In the last verse, Gabby has the rapist killed by the young woman whom he raped. She knew this wasn't how the song would end. It did, however, make her feel a little better after writing it. When Gabby finished the first version of her song, she left the pen in the notebook. She then closed it and placed her book down on her nightstand. Gabby laid down, hugging her pillow. She cried a little more until she fell asleep. Come morning, Miranda knocked on Gabby's front door. Dennis opened the door to greet her. Dennis pointed with his thumb over his shoulder as he told Miranda that Gabby was still sleeping. Miranda walked to Gabby's room and knocked. Good morning, it's Miranda. Gabby unlocked the door and opened it slightly, then went back to lay in bed. Miranda came in, closing the door behind her. Without saying a word, Miranda laid next to Gabby and hugged her from the back. 10 minutes went by. Miranda broke the silence, asking, "Are you planning on hiding in here all day?" Gabby said, "I really don't want to see anyone else beside you. I feel emotional as fuck, and I'm afraid I'm going to break down." Miranda said, "You just went through a lot. I don't blame you, but sis, you have to face them eventually. You know we all love you, and if you don't go out there, eventually we'll all be in here with you." Gabby said, "I know, I know. Oh man, good looking out on yesterday. It was nice being out of my element and getting out of my head for the day. I mean, there were a couple times I caught myself thinking about it, but then I would check myself and try to be cool." Miranda responded, "I had so much fun with you. Anytime you want to get out of your element like that, just hit me up. You know I got you." Gabby nodded her head. "So I wrote something last night," Gabby mentioned. Miranda asked, "Really? Can I hear it?" As she pointed to her nightstand, Gabby said, "Pásame el cuaderno." Miranda reached for the notebook. She handed it to Gabby, who read the song to Miranda. When Gabby finished reading it, Miranda said, "Wow, Ma, that was vivid and deep and gory." Gabby said, "I know. Honestly, I don't like the ending. I feel like the song needs to bring healing to anyone else who may have suffered this type of pain. I just wrote that part in to help me feel a little better. But I'm going to rewrite it eventually." Miranda responded, "I get where you're coming from in this version, but I do agree that you can probably help others by letting them see they aren't alone in this fucked up world. This type of stuff happens way too often." Gabby nodded in agreement and then asked, "Well, I know you got shit to do today. Today. Is it cool if I get ready and just hang out with you?" Miranda answered, "Of course you can. That's exactly why I came over. My shift doesn't start until I say so anyways." Gabby replied, "All right, cool. Here." Gabby handed Miranda the remote control for the TV. Gabby said, "I'll be quick." She grabbed her towel and went to the shower. After her shower, she came to the room to get dressed. As Gabby got dressed, she asked Miranda, "Are you down to go to lunch? I'll pay." Miranda said, "Yeah, Ma, that sounds firme." When Gabby was ready, the two girls walked down to Miranda's car. "Where do you want to eat?" Gabby asked Miranda. Miranda thought for a second. Miranda said, "You know where I haven't been for a minute? It's Carrillo's in SF." Gabby opened her eyes wide. Gabby said, "That sounds good about now." The girls took a drive to San Fernando. As soon as the girls sat down after placing their order, Miranda's phone rang. It was one of her clients asking for some weed. Miranda said she'd be right there. Gabby asked, "Should we take it to go?" Miranda responded, "No. Why?" Gabby replied, "Well, I just figured since you got the call." Miranda put her phone in her pocket. She then said, "Nah, they ain't going nowhere. First, I'm going to enjoy my lunch and my time with you." Miranda winked and smiled at Gabby. Gabby shrugged her shoulders and smiled. After lunch, the ladies made their way over to Miranda's client to make a drop. On the drive over, Gabby's phone rang. It was Deuce. Gabby answered it nervously. He just called to make small talk. Gabby talked to him for a minute. Then she decided to tell Deuce what his cousin did. As she finished telling him, his cousin walked into Deuce's house. He asked his cousin if it was true. George immediately became defensive. He said, "Hell nah. That bitch threw herself on me. She was all loose. You could tell she's a slut." Gabby said, "A woman can say yes to sex to 1,000 different men, but if she says no to one and he still has sex with her, it's rape. He and I both know the truth." Deuce and Gabby hung up on good terms. Gabby turned to tell Miranda what was said. Miranda had a look of anger in her face. She shook her head, saying, "Damn, that fool has some serious fucking problems. He has it coming though, so don't even trip off him." Gabby looked out the window and said, "I know who I am and what I've done in my life." That's all that matters to me. Gabby never came across George again. She heard that he went to prison. Gabby wondered but never learned for sure what he went to the Pinta for. Eventually, Gabby got wind that George died there. Gabby did see Deuce once in a while at the local shops. Deuce always seemed uncomfortable to see her. They would say a very brief hello and continue about their own business. In the back of her mind, she wondered if George went to prison for another rape, or if George possibly admitted the truth to Deuce. Because the few times she had seen him, Deuce had a look on his face as if he knew the truth and felt sympathetic toward Gabby. Gabby never brought it up with Deuce again. It took some time before Gabby was ready to do the work to heal from George and Greg. When she was ready, she started by forgiving them for their actions. She forgave herself for finding herself in these situations of being molested and raped. She forgave her parents and brother for not being there to protect her. One by one, she thought about all of the issues that came up from these experiences: substantial trust issues, lack of self-love and worthiness to be loved, self-worth, abandonment, depression, and anger. One by one, she acknowledged these issues were part of the stories that she created out of her pain and fear. Gabby finally came to the understanding that all of her experiences were predestined prior to her coming into this life. She was finally able to put the uneasiness to rest. Some days, the memories of mental anguish did resurface, causing Gabby to drift back into a funk. Gabby would always set time aside to focus on the issue and heal. She would remind herself that she was beautiful inside and out. She would tell herself that she loved herself and was worthy of being loved by others. These experiences did help her to heal herself, as well as be able to walk others through their own healing journeys. Thank you for tuning in with me, and I'll catch you at the next one.